What did she mean to you?
Yeah, grandma was incredibly important to me growing up, or Nonna as we called her. She was sort of like a second mother in a lot of ways, in that my parents were traveling, and I remember this as an entire summer that I spent with her. My mom said it was only 2 weeks. Probably the truth is somewhere in between, but um, they I think they were in Italy, and I spent some time with her, and I just remember it just being lovely artwork, and going to the zoo together, the Camden Zoo, and for some reason I was really into Christmas trees, and so we would just do all these different art projects around the motif of Christmas trees. Getting a little bit off the topic here, but I think she was just a wonderful. She was obviously my grandmother, but she had such an outsized role in bringing me up. It was almost like, just a really big presence in my life. Certainly remember her more than any of my other grandparents, and just really, just really important to me in my early childhood. And trying to remember how old she was when I passed. I can't. How old I was when she passed, and I can't even remember exactly. But I think I was still in middle school. So she was really, when I was going through elementary school and in middle school, I remember talking to her about the things I was working on, and her telling me to always ask good questions. That was one of her going back to school catchphrases. I'm sure. I wonder if you got that from her too, Larry. But she would always call me and tell me that on the first day of school.
No, that's
always ask good questions.
special to you.
It stuck with me. Yeah, it stuck with me. She would always say that to me every first day of school. Oh, ask good questions. That's the most important thing.
Oh, no, no, no. She did say that. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. She wouldn't call me on the first day of school, but what she would say was ask good questions. Make sure you ask good questions. What kind of example did she set? What kind of example did she set as a role model?
Her love of learning and of sort of bettering oneself. The fact that she was as incredibly well read as she was without having gone to college, and her bookshelf was always incredible. Remember, she had like all of the important works of literature and philosophy, and you could tell she'd read most of them. So all on her bookshelves, and sort of kind of an autodidact, had always just read and learned things that way. And I certainly can't imagine having have read all those things without having to do it for school. So I think that just her commitment to learning and to knowledge and bettering oneself was really very important to me. And then in other ways is just being a really caring, loving kind of force in all of her grandchildren and all of her relatives' lives, and incredible listener. Really, even I was young. I was younger when she passed away. But even my problems, she would listen to them and give very thoughtful advice, and always kind of make you feel better. Those are some of the, I think, her moral code of being empathic and being there for others and helping others, and being committed to those around you. So,
how did she influence you as a future parent?
She had this incredible excitement for the things that I was interested in, even at a very young age, and was really able to transmit that excitement and kind of bring me in to kind of enter herself into my world, and we would get very excited about art projects together, or kind of cooking something in the kitchen together, and sort of that enthusiasm and excitement made me feel like we were almost peers. And I think children in general really like to feel like people are listening to them and value their thoughts and value their views. And so I think that was a great model for one of my parents.
Do you remember any story?
Well, I always loved that she always had tortellini ready every time I came over. That's obviously a lot of Italian families, I think, have these sort of attachments to food, but that was sort of like, she knew that was my favorite dish. And then, if and I asked her to teach me how to make it one time, and so we made the broth together, and sort of that attachment. I think of her when I eat tortellini, so sort of a nice kind of the way sort of that dish brings me back to think about her. And other nice stories were that summer when I think it was the entire summer in my memory because it felt like so important. But spending time with her at her house when my parents were traveling in Italy, and just it being like my favorite thing. I was a kid who hated going to camp, but like spend a summer with my grandmother, that was like the maximum. Just art projects, going to the zoo, cooking together. It was great. Her encyclopedic knowledge of the rules of every sport was very impressive. I remember that as a young kid.
Yeah, she was a sports fan.
She seemed to know more about baseball than any of my other relatives. And I loved baseball growing up. Different allegiances on sport teams. I was more into the Yankees and her into the Phillies. But I remember trying to learn how to play when I was very young and kind of getting the wiffle ball and her, like, I think she was in her 70s pitching to me. It was pretty impressive. Yeah, she was quite old and she was throwing pitches to me, which tells you, I'm sure that was taxing for her at her age, but she just loved baseball and she loved me. And so I think for an hour or 2 hours out there in the New Jersey shore, we were just like I was hitting balls. So I thought that was kind of incredible. Yeah.
Do you have like a strongest?
And she could throw a spiral in her 70s. That was another thing. I remember she'd throw a football to me. She could throw a football in her 70s. It was incredible.
Wow.
She obviously walked or something, stayed healthy. It's incredible that she had the muscles to do that.
What would you say her moral code was?
I think a profound empathy for others and really valuing the thoughts and feelings of other people and really being committed to trying to help others and bring other people up. And so, yeah, I say empathy would be her moral code.
Listen, it's really nice. I'm glad we did this. It was nice to communicate. I miss you. I love you. And Thanks for doing this again.
Of course, Larry. Thanks so much. This is great.
You got it, buddy.
Thanks for calling.
Tell Ashley. Yeah. Send my love to Ashley.
I will.
All right, great.
Much love to your
All
family.
Right. You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.